Good morning. It's Tuesday, October 20, and welcome to your Barbados Today Morning News Update. Today is a big day for students in Barbados. Education Minister Cynthia Bradshaw will reveal this year's exhibition and scholarship winners this afternoon at a news conference. The announcement comes even as the Caribbean Examination Council is expected to release the report of the independent review panel, which analysed the administration of this year's CSEC and CAPE examinations. The results were rejected as flawed. Lead committee spokesperson for the group of concerned parents of Barbados, Paula Ann Moore, is looking forward to the findings, and she makes it clear that parents will not rest until relevant improvements are made ahead of next year's examinations.
We are very thrilled with the acknowledgement by our Prime Minister demonstrating her regional leadership as she acknowledged that the children have been treated suboptimally, and she has demonstrated her regional leadership in indicating that the Ministry of Education will cover those grade review costs. We have indicated that we reject in principle that CXC, even with a reduced fee, would still be advocating that there be any reduced fee, in view of the fact that clearly the grades need to be reviewed because of systemic challenges, which we still maintain CXC is a part of. So while we welcome Ms. Motley's leadership, we trust that the other ministers of education throughout the region also come with a united policy.
In other news, the Mayor Motley administration may soon be asked to help pay off millions of dollars in severance for hundreds of terminated Liat workers. Notice of this has been given by Antigua and Barbados Prime Minister Gaston Browne while speaking on a local radio station. Browne told listeners the headquarters of the collapsed airline cannot foot the severance bill on its own.
Antigua and Barbados will put in some cash. We'll even look at the possibility of making some land available as well, so at least they'll get some level of value. We're not sure where this thing will settle eventually. The extent of severance that will be payable by Liat will be based on the success of the administrator in getting the creditors and to reduce or to write down the value of the debt. But at some point, I am of the view that the government should come together and to make some contribution. And I want to give the Liat employees the assurance that we'll be pushing as far as possible to make sure that they could maybe get up to possibly 50%. It's not a firm commitment, but we understand that, they worked, they helped to build the airline. Fortunately, it has ended up in trouble now, but the Antiguan government can't carry it alone.
The Antiguan leader is adamant that some 600 airline employees must go and 100 rehired in order to operate a leaner, efficient company once the current restructuring process succeeds under a court-approved administrator. Browne, however, cautions workers not to disrupt or undermine the restructuring process.
We don't want individuals to be unnecessarily disruptive and to undermine the restructuring that is taking place. You're better off having 100 people employed and having Liat flying than to force a situation to have 600 people employed, and then the situation will be that the Liat will collapse, maybe in a few months. So we have to understand that it cannot survive in the form in which it existed prior to COVID, and that if you're going to have some semblance of Liat, it has to be very lean, very efficient, and that it requires the cooperation of all, including those who will not be reemployed.
The Caribbean Public Health Agency is working with its members towards certifying hotels and guest houses regionally. This will be done with a traveler's health stamp that will help to identify places that are adhering to COVID-19 protocols.
The announcement came on Monday from Assistant Director of CAFA, Dr. Lisa Indar. She explained that certification will follow COVID-19 protocol training of staff within the tourism industry.
As we open our travel and tourism sector, which is very important for economy recovery, it is important that, the proactive health measures are adhered to. And that includes, proper training, certification, monitoring and reporting on illness.
Dr. Indar said the initiative will be launched officially in November.
Web-based early warning and response system. So it's real time, it's at your fingertips. You can get it on your phone And we really encouraging not just the hotels, but the guest houses and the tour operators and so on. You know, we are not asking them to be doctors, but it's really they're reporting symptoms. And the system does its own calculation, but more importantly, relevant persons in Ministry of Health knows instantly what's happening. It's real-time flow of information.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To regional news now, Antigua and Barbados Chief Medical Officer Rhonda Sealy-Thomas warns citizens to take the country's COVID-19 protocol seriously as cases of the virus continue to rise. More in this report from ABS News.
Chief Medical Officer Dr. Rhonda Sealy-Thomas says 2 government departments have been identified in recent positive cases of COVID-19. She says more care needs to be taken to protect the population in light of recent trends.
Based on our analysis of the most recent cases, some things have come out. The work environment, certainly we have to pay attention to maintaining the wearing of masks in the work environment and physical distancing at work.
The CMO also cautions against families becoming complacent to the point of not wearing masks when visiting other family members.
We're asking members of the general public to remember that we still have to practice physical distancing and wear our masks even when we're in the presence of family members, especially when we visit them.
Social activities among close friends is also another area where people are being reminded not to drop their guard.
On the international scene in the U.S., there's a surge in early voting, and as we hear in this report from Reuters Television, the trend favors the Democrats.
Early voting began on October 7th in the battleground state, where the Republican president's Democratic opponent, Joe Biden, has a narrow lead, according to recent opinion polls.
You don't have events like this and you come in second in Arizona, okay? You don't do that.
But Trump showed characteristic self-confidence in describing the state of the race amid signs that Democrats are leading the surge in early voting.
Because our people like to go out and vote, right? They like to vote.
Nearly 30 million Americans have already cast early ballots in the 2020 election, more than 21% of the overall total in 2016, as voters this year sought to avoid potentially large crowds on November 3rd. Polls opened to early voting in the crucial battleground state of Florida on Monday. A Reuters Ipsos survey of the state showed Biden with 49% of the support and Trump with 47%. At a drive-in rally in Orlando, Biden's running mate, Kamala Harris, made a breathless appeal for early votes.
Healthcare justice is on the ballot in 2020. Reproductive justice is on the ballot in 2020. Criminal justice reform is on the ballot in 2020. Climate reform is on the ballot in 2020. Everything is on the ballot in 2020. Joe Biden is on the ballot in 2020.
That's news, but for the very latest, visit our website at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media and bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. You can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.